வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
வாழ்க வளமுடன். ஆழ்நிலை தவமா அருமையாக கொண்டு வந்துட்டீங்க சக்தி. வாழ்க வளமுடன். ஹரி, ஓவர் டு யூ ஹரி.
ஓகேண்ணா, வாழ்க வளமுடன். ரொம்ப நன்றிண்ணா. ரொம்ப அருமையான தவம் டாக்டர் சக்தி. தேங்க்யூ. ஸோ ஓகே, last week Dr. Shakti talked about the intelligence matters, and last week Arulnidi talked about training the mind to enlightenment. So I would like to continue on it. Really, those two presentations set up a bar up very high. I hope I can match to that. Today I would like to discuss on how to master the mind, mastering the mind. So mastering the mind, I would like to focus on four parts. First of all, I would like to think what is a mind, and what is an importance of having the mind or discussing about the mind, and what's the power of that mind, and how to master the mind. Or to master the mind, we'll have to understand the defects of the mind also. So we'll be discussing side by side what is the defect and what is the power of the mind. Okay. So first of all, what is a mind? Everybody uses the mind. We continuously think about the mind. There were hundreds and thousands of psychological research going on. We talk about psychiatry, psychology, mind management, stress management, so many things. But in simple terms, Vedatri, our guru, has explained this. Mind is nothing but like waves in the ocean. So the tides are the mind, and the ocean is the consciousness. So whatever comes out of the consciousness, when it is in action, that's called mind. When it is silent and still, that is consciousness. So mind is a counterpart of the consciousness. So by knowing this, you know how much important it is to know about the mind. In general, we say mind is a continuous flow of thought. And how this flow of thought happening? As soon as we get in contact with the world, as soon as we think of doing something, the thoughts started coming. In fact, as soon as the mind wakes up, then only we wake up from the bed. Until we are in deep sleep, we don't experience the world, or we don't work, or we don't do any karma. So as soon as the mind wakes up, we wake up. So sooner the mind wakes up, sooner we wake up. And later the mind goes to sleep, we take time to sleep. So everything depends completely on mind. Whatever we experience through only mind. In fact, whatever we perceive or whatever we experience, whatever we see, everything is in the mind. We don't really see what is really there in the universe or in the real world. So we understood what is mind. It is continuous flow of thought. And also, this is a fictional part. Even though it is a movement, it is a fictional part. When you look into deeply, this mind is given by the society. We don't have our own mind. Everybody thinks we think and we have a mind, but really it is a mind of the society. Indian thinks in certain way, American thinks in certain way, Hindu thinks in certain way. So the thoughts comes from the background and the socio-economical conditioning of the mind. So that is the way we think, and that is the way we see. If a person seeing the same situation from different situation will perceive it differently. So that is this power of the mind, and this mind is really a fiction. So by calming this mind, by accessing that consciousness, we can master the mind and also access the whole universe. So let's talk about some importance of this mind. This mind lives with us 24/7, birth to death, every second, unless we are in a deep sleep. Even in a sleep state, we dream, we create the world. So every time we are with the mind, and we are the mind, and we are inside the mind. Only time we don't experience the mind or experience the world is the deep sleep state, where there is no dream. So when they talk about Shrishti, there are two kinds of Shrishti. One is the Krama Shrishti, that is the actual universe. We all know from the dark energy, the sky came from the sky, the fire and water and air, fire, water and Prithvi and so on. So that is the actual real world. The other important Shrishti is the Sankalpa Shrishti. So that what we create. For example, a person who is traveling on a bus, a guy who is traveling on a bus, and he sees girl with the shorts, and she sits next to him. So he thought of talking to him. He's so excited. He's about to speak. But by the time he come over his hesitation, she gets up and get out of the bus and going away. So he thought, okay, it's fine. Let me watch the nature. And he was watching the nature through. There was a procession going on the road, and there were elephants walking, and he sees all these things and goes and sleep. While he was in the sleep, he is having a dream. What is that dream? Somebody is knocking on the door. He goes and opens the door. When he sees the elephant in the shorts with a full cut off. To his utter amazement, these are the mix-up of the mind. That is the creation of the mind. It can create anything in a minute. It doesn't need to come step by step. We can create anything in single second. Even by the time I'm talking, your mind not only listening to me, it can also think about hundreds of things. That is because the quickness of the mind, the distraction of the mind, that much it is fast and that much it is powerful to create anything. That is why even though you're listening to the speech, you could think multiple things. That's because I can never match my speed of the speech with your speed of the mind. Usually they say the light to reach the earth, it takes 8 minutes. But for us to think about the sun and going back and come back, it not even take a second. So that much powerful it is. This is the importance of the mind. And when you introduce a person, you don't introduce a person as said, you introduce a person's mind. In fact, if you look into it deeply. For example, if you say somebody is a good person, he's a very gentleman, he's nice, he's brilliant, he's excellent, you all talking about his mind, not his personality. So the value of a person or the whole life and the experience, everything based on the mind. So that is the importance of mind. Let us think about the power of the mind. We all know mind is super powerful because as we have just seen, this is coming out of the consciousness. When it comes to the stillness, it becomes the consciousness. Consciousness is nothing but the omnipotent and omnipresent, powerful source of energy, and that is the Brahman. So we are accessing the Brahman through this mind. So that's why the power of the mind is immense and it's unexplainable. We can have few examples. First example, we will think about mind over the body. There was a professor in Ahmedabad. He traveled in a plane, and unfortunately, the plane crashed and it crash landed. So he realized that the plane is going to catch a fire. So he has to quickly jump out and save his life. But next to him, there was a small boy. So what he did is he threw the boy out of the window, and he also jumped down. But as soon as he jumped down, he carried the boy and ran away as far as possible from the plane, and then keep shouting until he get a medical help. As soon as somebody noted him, he just fell into unconsciousness, and then they took him and given the medical care. But then they noticed it, the person who had multiple fractures in his leg. But when he jumped out of the window, he broke his legs completely. It is not a single fracture, multiple fracture. People from medical background, you can easily understand that with multiple fracture, carrying a boy and running, it is an impossible task. But it had happened, that much power were there in the mind. Mind can overpower the body. In a different situation, they have done an experiment and where they proved mind can overpower even life. So there was a prison and they had to do a psychological test with the prisoners. One prisoner was a death sentence prisoner. So they've told him instead of hanging him, they are going to cut his throat the next day and he'll be killed in that way. So he was anxious the whole night because he's going to die next day. And also this is a painful death. It's not going to be hanging and they are going to cut his throat. So he was all day thinking about it, worrying about it. And the next day morning, what they did is they just did all the procedures and they covered him with the black cloth and they brought him to the place where they can hang him. But instead of hanging him, what they did is they took him into the bathroom and they take a cutlery knife, not a proper knife, cutlery knife, and that too not from the sharp side. The other side, they just kept the knife like this. They just crossed it. And then they opened the tap a little bit. Once they opened the tap, this man thought, okay, his throat has been cut and the blood is flowing. Suddenly he fell down and died. That is the power of the mind. We don't even need to cut the throat, but the thought of having the throat being cut makes us to die. In a different situation, this happened in a day-to-day life activity, you can say. In a hotel, they did a psychological test. What they did is they called all the cleaning workers. They separated them into two groups. For the one group people, they said, even though they are working right from the morning to the evening, 8 hours, they're standing continuously working, cleaning all the rooms. This is not enough because they have to do certain type of different physical exercise for them to keep fit. For the other side of the group, what they told them is whatever they are doing, that is the exercise. They don't need any extra exercises. They don't need to keep any extra diet, or they don't need to maintain anything separately. So what had happened is after the three to 4 months, they've studied them again. Who were told they need an extra exercise, diet control and everything, they all put on weight and they all stressed, frustrated. They don't feel fit. When it comes to the other group, they have been told whatever they are doing, that itself is an exercise. They all fit, healthy, cheerful, and nice. It is the mind which creates the fitness, not the exercise. Even though if you're working 6 to 7 hours in the gym, still it is a placebo effect. That has been proved time and time in pain management and in so many other conditions also. There were another experiment in cardiology department where a two group of people have to undergo the angiogram. So what they have done is, for one group of people, they took into the theater and they actually did the angio. For the other group of people, they took into the theater and they just cut a small in their femur, and then they told that they have done the angio. After 10 years, they have studied those people who were undergone the real angio. Most of the people have died. Whereas the people who didn't have the actual angio and have been told they had the angio, most of them were very, very healthy, and they lived longer than the other group. So by thinking about all these conditions, we can understand the power of the mind. That's what Vivekananda also said in one time, that even if you drink poison and think that it's not going to affect you, you will not be affected. Even if you take a sweet and you think it's going to affect you and it's going to kill you, you will definitely kill. So that is the main purpose of having all the clinical trials. So the basis of a clinical trial means testing the new drugs in humans. So when you test it, it should be significantly highly efficacious than the placebo. Placebo is nothing but just a sugar pill, or it has no active ingredient. It doesn't have a medicine. But the patient will not be told it's not a medicine. They just randomize the people, and then they give some people the actual drug. For some people, they don't give the actual drug. They just give a sugar pill, and they will test. If anybody is recovering, they will compare these two groups' recovery. Whoever is, if the placebo group recovers higher or equal to the actual drug group, the drug is not efficacious. So by looking at this, we can understand how much powerful the mind is. We don't even need to be treated for any diseases. If you think you have been treated, you are in good hands, you have been treated by the expert doctors, then you automatically cure yourself. So even surgery, exercise, fitness, anything, you name it, everything is mental, nothing is physical. So that is the power of the mind. Now, to master the mind, we should also have to look at another dimension of the mind, which is defects of the mind. We all came with manufacturing defects. There are 3 sets of manufacturing defects, no exception. Every single person has this defect. What are those defects? The first defect is the dirt of the mind. We call it anger, jealousy, greed, frustration, stress, all these kama, krodha, lobha, moha, kama, kara. These are the dirt of the mind. So without removing those dirt, you can't access the power of that mind. The second one is the continuous distraction. As I've told now, even when you are listening to my speech, your mind can go anywhere and everywhere. And constantly, this mind is distracting you. So that is one of the nature of the mind. So that is why we call that as a mind. As Vedatri points out, the tide, it continuously moves. It is in kinetic action. Whatever it is in kinetic action, that is called mind. So that is the nature of the mind. There is another defect of our mind. The third one is the maya or the ajnana. So we know we are the consciousness. When we come in contact with the world, we create the mind, and the mind is just a tool and it's fiction. But however, we don't realize it. We always dwell into the mind. Most of the diseases, 80% of the diseases are caused psychosomatic. These all mentally created. We think about it, we stress about it, or we just create because of the mind. So that is ajnana, that is maya. We always think this is life and this is it. For example, I can tell a story to explain what is a maya. Maya doesn't mean that there is nothing in the world, everything is illusion. There are, of course, material things in the world, and it has been created by the Brahman. It has created millions of, it survives the millions of years of period. But however, nobody lives in the real world. Everybody lives in their sankalp shrishti, in their imaginary world. And that's what it ties them up. So come back to the story. What happened is, in Mahabharata, the story comes, one day Arjuna's son was traveling through a small village, where in one village there was a dead body and there were few people sitting around and they were chatting. Nobody was worried or nobody was scared about the dead body. They didn't even cry for that person who died. But only one old man sitting at the side, he was crying continuously. This Arjuna's son went and asked him, why the rest of the people are not crying? And you are not, you are the only person crying. So that person, oh, you can see me. I'm the person who died there. I'm crying just because thinking about my next birth. I'm not worried about the people who are not crying for me, but I'm really worried about myself. He asked him, why? What's the problem? He said, I'm going to be born as a bear, the bear which eats its own feces. I don't want to live such a pitiful life. Can you do me a favor? So Arjuna's son said, okay, of course I can do the favor. What do you want? He said, when you come next time to the nearby forest, there'll be a bear which eats its own feces and it survives. Please kill that bear. So Arjuna's son promises him, okay, definitely I'll do it. After a few years, Arjuna's son goes to that forest and he sees the bear. As soon as he sees the bear, he started recognizing that this is the old person. He took his bow and arrow and he tried to kill it. So as soon as he took the bow and arrow, the bear came and, please stop, don't kill me. He was asking why you don't want to kill me. You don't want me to kill you, but you already told me to kill you. But he said, okay, yeah, of course I said, but I started liking this life and I'm enjoying this life. Even though I'm eating my feces, I'm happy about it. I don't want to die. Then he left it. But what is the moral of the story is every human being, every living creature, this is survival instinct. Whatever the state we are in, we just love it. We want to live the way we are, and we always think that is life and that is it. A famous saying in India that a person with jaundice will see everything yellow. Likewise, we all have our own filters. We see things from our mind. As Vedatri Maharishi says, mind is nothing but the impressions we already had from our past experiences. So whatever the new experiences comes, it always matches with the old experience, the recording from the genetic center, and projects it as an experience. So we live in that projection. We live in that imaginary world. It's a controlled hallucination of everybody. We don't really live in an actual world. And that's what Buddhism is also saying. When you open your third eye, you will really see things as it is. So nobody in the world, except who are enlightened, sees things as it is. So that is Maya. So we have to remove these three defects. One is the dirt of the mind, the distraction of the mind, and the Maya and the Jnana. If you remove these three only, we can achieve we can master the mind and can access the consciousness. So our Guru, with his grace and with his love for us, he has given us devices. He has given us devices to overcome these defects. What are those devices? The first one is the introspection. By doing the introspection, we can remove all the dirt. That's why Adhiguna Sirameku, we'll have to constantly think about our life and thoughts and our processes. By implementing all these introspections, we can definitely remove that first dirt. Second dirt is removed by dhyana. So what Maharishi says, dhyana is nothing but giving some work to the mind, not the ordinary work. work to focus on the life, focus on the consciousness, to concentrate on the consciousness. When you start concentrating on the consciousness, so the waves settles and merges with the ocean. That's how we completely merge with ourselves. We don't, whenever we see the external world, whenever we see the material things, whenever we see pleasures outside, so mind is vibrant and active. Whenever we see the ocean, whenever we see the actual consciousness within inside, when we start focusing and looking into it, mind settles down, so you can have the access to the consciousness. So that is dhyana. By doing dhyana, all the Kundalini yoga, we can definitely remove the second dirt, which is the distraction of the mind. And the third dirt is the ajnana. So how ajnana can be removed? Again, our guru had devised a program called Brahmayana. When you grow to a certain level after introspections and after you do all the meditation practices, you have been taught Brahmayana. By learning the Brahmayana, we understand the nature of the life and we understand the consciousness. So we become the consciousness. By following Vedatriyam completely, we can remove all these defects. By removing all these defects, we can master the mind. By mastering the mind, we can access the consciousness and we live well and we can make people happy around us. So finally, I'll tell one story and then conclude my speech. The story is about our mind and bondages. So all the bondages, as I spoke now, is in the mind. And the liberation is also in the mind. There is a famous story from the Vedanta. What happened is a farmer, he had 2 buffaloes. And every day he takes them to grass and he takes some rest and come back in the evening with the buffaloes. One day, unfortunately, one of the buffalo's robe from its neck got fallen, so he could not find the belt is the rope. Then he came and frustrated, he doesn't know what to do. So he tied up one buffalo which had the rope and he was looking around for any rope to tie the other buffalo. There was a Swamiji, sannyasi, sitting in a little hut, and he went to him and asked him, Swamiji, pranam, I would like to get some rope to tie my buffalo. Swamiji said, if I have all the robes and bondages, why would I be here as a sannyasi? I don't have anything. I live with meager things. So he said, look, Swamiji, it's my problem. I have 2 buffaloes, but one of the buffalo doesn't have a rope. I don't know how to tie it. I'm a bit worried, but it may go somewhere. And by the time I come back from my rest time, if I can't find the buffalo, it will be frustrating, really. So the Swamiji said, okay, would you tie the buffalo every day? He said, yes, of course, I do tie the buffalo. Okay, go and tie the buffalo. But that's not a problem. Only you know you don't have the rope, but the buffalo doesn't know. So go and pretend as if you're tying the buffalo. Whatever you do every day, do the same way and tie the buffalo. He went and did, oh, come on. He tied as if he just did his all hand movements and tied with the tree. And his utter surprise, the buffalo sat down. Okay, it must be some power of Swamiji. Swamiji gave some mantra or something, so that's why the buffalo sat down. That's what they're thinking of the farmer. And he went there and slept for some time. By the time when it comes to take the buffaloes to home, he came back and untied the buffalo where he really tied. And he was just waking up the other buffalo. Oh, come on, get up, let's go home. But this is not getting up. He was worried. Okay, maybe it is because of Swamiji's mantra, it is not getting up. He went to the Swamiji and asked Swamiji, please remove the mantra. My buffalo is not getting up. He said, I didn't put any mantra. You untie the buffalo, it will come with you. He said, no, I didn't tie. I was just pretending. Of course, you pretend to tie, and now you have to pretend again to untie the buffalo. He went and untied, again, did the same thing and untied the buffalo. For his utter surprise, the buffalo awake or stand up and came with him. And that's how they went to the home. So the moral of the story is we all live in that state. We are that buffalo. We tie ourselves with imaginary ropes to certain different dimensions of the life or experiences of the life. When we learn how to untie this rope, we will also be enlightened. We can also access the super consciousness and we can merge with the Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi, Varilha Valmudan. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Valha Valmudan. Thank you, Harry. It's a very good presentation, and I think you can see, as you said, you are continuously take on the Deepa's discussion last week and move it on, take it to the next level. Thank you for your time, and
thank you.
And வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
வாழ்த்து சொல்லி முடிச்சிடலாம்.
முடிச்சிடலாம் ராஜன். நல்ல தலைப்புல பேசுனீங்க ஹரி, மிக்க நன்றி. உலக நல வாழ்த்து.
வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
வாழ்க வளமுடன். உலகமெல்லாம் பருவமழை ஒத்தபடி பெய்யட்டும், உழவரெல்லாம் தானியத்தை உவப்புடனே பெருக்கட்டும், பல தொழில்கள் புரிகின்ற பாட்டாளி உயரட்டும், பகுத்துணர்வில் தொகுத்துணர்வு பண்பாட்டை உயர்த்தட்டும், கலகங்கள் போட்டி பகை கடந்தாட்சி நடக்கட்டும், கல்லாமை கடன் வறுமை கலகங்கள் மறையட்டும், நலவாழ்வை அளிக்கும் மெய் ஞான ஒளி வீசட்டும், நம் கடமை அறவாழ்வின் நாட்டத்தே சிறக்கட்டும், நம் கடமை அறவாழ்வின் நாட்டத்தே சிறக்கட்டும், நம் கடமை அறவாழ்வின் நாட்டத்தே சிறக்கட்டும். வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வளமுடன்.